All right, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about myself. I have a doctorate in physical therapy from Texas State University, which is about an hour outside of Austin. And when I was in PT school, we had a guest lecture about big therapy. Has everybody in here heard of big therapy? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, good. Has anybody tried it? Who's tried big therapy? Awesome. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So at the time, this lecture completely blew my mind. It was the most exciting therapy I had ever seen. And I decided to get certified in it, and they did. They let me get certified when I was still in PT school, and they even gave me a student discount. So that was really cool. I didn't know if they'd let me even do it. So after I graduated, power therapy came along, and I went and got certified in power therapy. Have y'all heard of power therapy? Okay, not many of you have. Good. This is good for you to know. Okay, power, it's PWR exclamation point. It stands for Parkinson's Wellness Recovery. It was developed by the same lady. Her name is Becky Farley. She's brilliant. It's a very intense program, just like big therapy. It involves full body, large amplitude movements, and that you learn how to do, and then you practice them, and you get good at it. And ultimately, it makes movement easier, and it helps you manage your symptoms. It essentially changes your brain. So we're not just changing you physically with these exercises, we're changing the physiology of your brain, which is really exciting. So got power certified. Before I went to PT school, I got a dance degree from the University of Georgia. I studied dance there. And I'm actually in the process of getting certified for dance for Parkinson's right now. So sometime around August, I'll be teaching dance classes for Parkinson's, which y'all might have heard is really good for Parkinson's. So we can look forward to that. Actually, this is an old picture of me dancing in college, which we incorporated into my logo. Just a little fun fact. It's a balance posture. I can't do it anymore, but so. Don't ask me. You could probably talk me into trying. All right, so this is my family in the bottom corner. This is my husband, Riley. He's in medical school, and he also helps me run balance therapy. We have a daughter named Parker. She's 14 months old. We didn't name her Parker because I'm Parkinson's therapist. That's a coincidence. Okay, so this man up at the top, that's my grandfather. A few fun facts about my grandfather. His name was Red. He had red hair, and he had 7 redheaded brothers. He also had Parkinson's disease. He's from Fort Worth. Sadly, I didn't get to meet him. He died before I was born, but I like to think that he's the reason why I feel so called to do this work. I feel very, very blessed to serve this population because people with Parkinson's are the best. They're the best. Well, I guess I'll tell you more about, balance therapy. It's a private practice. I specialize in Parkinson's with balance therapy, but also dizziness and other balance issues. So just generally, real quick, we're going to overview the benefits of exercise for Parkinson's. What exercise does is it increases this fancy word called brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is a fancy word for a substance that protects your old neurons and helps you grow new ones. All right, so exercise is the only thing that can slow the progression of Parkinson's disease. You can take your medication, which is great, and that will treat the symptoms of Parkinson's, but exercise is the only thing that will actually slow the progression. So studies say that, exercise plus medication is better than medication alone. People will say things to me like, well, I better take my medicine and I better exercise or it's going to be a really bad day. People say stuff like that all the time. Exercise, depending on when you're diagnosed, maybe you weren't even told to exercise at the time of diagnosis. They used to tell you, take it easy. rest, that kind of thing. But actually now we know it's the exact opposite. Now exercise is at the forefront of treatment for Parkinson's disease. So I'm going to hopefully explain to you how to get started and keep going with it, specifically for your Parkinson's. Okay, people who exercise regularly are on less medication. So that's always a good thing. Medications can bring unwanted side effects. Less medication is a good thing if you don't need it because you're exercising. What it also does, exercise suppresses your motor symptoms. So it can help you overcome bradykinesia, slow movement. It can help you overcome rigidity and tremors. There's a study out that said cycling reduced tremors. You wouldn't associate, necessarily those two, but it does. It helps with the motor symptoms. However, it also helps with the non-motor symptoms, things like constipation, sleep issues, anxiety, apathy. Depression is very common in Parkinson's. It's not your fault. The dopamine pathways are a direct pathway, but there's an indirect pathway that involves serotonin. So if the primary pathway is breaking down, the serotonin loops might start to break down. So if there's a chemical change in your brain, you want to treat that. I mean, you can't put a price on your mental health. If you're going to be fighting something like Parkinson's, you want to feel empowered and at your best. Okay, so I came up with 7 Parkinson's exercise essentials. These are the things you really need to change your brain, basically. So brains are much more plastic than we once thought. By plastic, I mean they can rewire themselves. We know that children have very plastic brains, because their brains are like sponges. They're just like taking in everything and learning everything. But older brains are actually much more plastic than we once thought. You have to use a little bit more finesse and pizzazz when you're rewiring an older brain, but it can be done. So timing matters. So let's say the earlier the better. The earlier you start exercising, the better. Hopefully at the time of diagnosis, okay? What happens is, we'll talk about more about that in a minute. The earlier the better, but it's not too late, okay? It's a lifelong commitment. So this is kind of, if you haven't changed already, it's gonna be a lifestyle change. What you're gonna do is establish a relationship with your therapist, check in with them once a year, and get a big boost. You gotta get strong, get moving again, and then you maintain all of those gains with maintenance exercise programs. So you'll be going back and forth between therapy and maintenance exercise programs for the rest of your life if you want to best manage this condition. Y'all with me? Okay. All right, so you want it to be physically challenging. There's 2 ways in particular for Parkinson's to make it challenging. The first one is your heart rate. We got to get your heart rate up. It has to be aerobic, all right? The second thing is training skills. Skills, you want to think of these skills as everyday things that you do throughout your day, things that you need to move in order to accomplish throughout your day, things like getting in and out of bed, out of cars, chairs, couches, walking, changing directions, stooping and picking something off the floor. These are skills that you kind of have to relearn with Parkinson's disease, and your therapist can help you find the best program for you. You want to exercise in an enriched environment. So what that means is, if you're going to go to all this trouble to create these conditions for your exercise program, it helps to know why you're doing it. And that reason is because your brain learns better under these conditions. So you choose an environment where you're having positive interactions, both with your environment and with others. That's ideal for learning, brain learning. The last thing is this came from a Parkinson's person. You gotta leave your ego at the door. So this therapy and these movement techniques, they can feel kind of silly and ridiculous at times, okay? We are really trying to pull you out of your comfort zone movement-wise. I'm constantly asking people during therapy, how does that feel? How does that feel? If they tell me it feels weird, I get excited because I know if it feels weird, I'm getting your brain's attention, okay? That's what it takes. Okay, at diagnosis, studies show that by the time people are diagnosed with Parkinson's, they've already begun to withdraw from recreational and sports activities. People, as they age, tend to pull away from these things as well. However, with normal aging and having Parkinson's on top of that, symptoms might deter you even more from being active. But it's counterintuitive. Really, you should have a plan of attack and be exercising. The thing about Parkinson's, and this isn't your fault, it's Parkinson's fault, over the course of several years, you lose your sense of spatial and body awareness, okay? So I'll tell you how to combat this. It helps to have some kind of feedback mechanism in place to know how well you're moving. What's the quality of the movement? There are ways to do that, and it helps to have somebody helping you. So your ability to kind of self-monitor your movements. Let's do an experiment. Everybody, make sure you've got enough room. On the count of 3, I want everybody to raise their arms up like this, like they're stopping traffic. Wait, not yet. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Now freeze. Everybody, look at your elbows. Are they straight? Are they all the way straight? If they aren't, push them straight. Push them out as far as they can go, further than you think. Good. Okay, now look at your fingers. Are they pulled back, or are you doing like a Frankenstein thing? Pull your fingers back. Okay, now rest. All right, everybody, just close your eyes. I want you to mentally rehearse that same movement. I want you to see yourself pushing the wall away. Reach your hands further than you think they need to go, and pull your fingers back and open them up like starfish. Okay, so mentally rehearse that. Then we're going to count backwards from 3 and do it again. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Check your elbows. Open your eyes. You can open your eyes now. Check your elbows. Are they straight or are they bent? If they are bent, push them straight. Push them out. See, the truth is, you guys can rest. The truth is, you still have the strength and the range of motion to perform normal movements, but your brain has gotten tired of it, okay? So we need to get its attention. And awareness building is a huge part of Parkinson's recovery. All right, so you've got to, in order to take action, you medicate, right? That's really important, but you also need to relearn what normal movements feel like, okay? When you are reaching for something, when you're throwing something into the wastebasket, you have to throw it harder than you used to in order to get it in there, you know? You're not doing it with as much finesse as you used to. But there are strategies, and the best way I can describe it is, in therapy, we will choreograph ways for you to move. So let's use gait as an example. Okay, you have to think about what you're doing every time you take a step. That's how you change your brain. So instead of just walking on autopilot, you're going to say, marching step, hit with your heel. Marching step, hit with your heel. And that is kind of how you think. You don't think of it as walking. You think like you're marching, or you're walking bigger, like you're on Broadway or something. It feels ridiculous to you. It's going to feel like you're exaggerating your movements, but in actuality, it's normalizing your movements. If I were to show you a video of yourself before and after I taught you these walking techniques, you would say, that looks fine. That looks better. Okay? Let's do another one. Yeah, let's do another one. All right, everybody, take your finger out. I want you to trace your name as big as you can. I'm going to do Valerie in the air. Okay, so that's an example of an exercise for handwriting. Okay. It's weird. There's these really out there exercises you can do to help with your handwriting. You might notice if somebody were watching you, they might say as you went on through your name, your movements got smaller. Okay? All right, so the thing is, this is a lifelong commitment. If you want to do the best, give yourself the best possible outcome, the earlier it is better. So hopefully at diagnosis or before then you started exercising. The people who started early, they were able to protect their dopaminergic neurons, the neurons with dopamine in them, the ones that are still holding on, for dear life. They protected those so that they had them around longer. That's always a good thing. The other thing is that their brains started working more efficiently. So what happened was, the dopamine neurons that are still hanging on by a thread, they're producing dopamine, but not as much as they used to, but they're doing everything they can. Your brain creates more receptors. So whatever dopamine you're making, your brain is drinking it up better. Your brain is working more efficiently. This is changing the wiring of your brain. Yeah. Okay, late bloomers, meaning they started exercising later. It took them a little bit longer to see the benefits of exercise, so be patient with yourself. Keep it up. And in general, they had healthier brains, okay? By healthier brains, I mean exercise, it slows the aging of your brain. So they had younger brains, if you want to think of it that way. They had less inflammation, less oxidative stress. That's always a good thing when you're combating something like Parkinson's. You want to start with the healthiest possible brain baseline that you can. All right, so more of your life plan. Okay, you've got to find a support team. It's very hard to manage this on your own. Part of it is because you don't have the ability to monitor yourself as well as you used to. You're going to have to kind of relearn how to monitor your movements. You're going to use your medical team to help consolidate your medications, maximize the benefit that you're getting from your medications, and nutrition as well. We don't have time to get into this today, but your gut is related to your brain health. So if you've got a healthier gut, you've got a healthier brain. They are connected. This is gaining legitimacy in the research, and it's still kind of up and coming, but I think it's very exciting. If you can work with a nutritionist, get your diet maximized, you're going to reach a whole nother level of wellness that you could achieve, that you couldn't have otherwise. Mental health, again, you can't put a price on your mental health. You're coping with a chronic condition. Your brain chemistry is changing. It's a good idea to get like a psychiatrist or a psychologist on your side just to check in with them, get some strategies, some coping strategies, and just kind of be on your A game, mentally and physically. Okay, so at diagnosis, you want to establish a relationship with a therapist. So there's speech therapists, physical therapists, and occupational therapists that specialize in Parkinson's. I think you should find a Parkinson-specific therapist. And then, you check in with them every 6 months or every year. Or if you've had a recent decline, you check in with your therapist. A fall, check in with your therapist, things like that. And then between therapy bouts, you do your exercise maintenance programs. Okay, so establishing feedback mechanisms. I'm going to try to give y'all some ideas of how to do this. Because of your impaired body awareness, your impaired ability to self-monitor your movements, you have to establish at first external cues. So that could be like me squawking at you. No, straighten your elbow all the way. This is what your elbows look like. Do it like this. People giving you feedback, all right? And then correcting that. A coach can do this for you, a personal trainer. You can use video feedback. I've seen people set up videos of them running on the treadmill with Parkinson's. The video is very helpful and insightful. Audio feedback for voice. And so you do this until you're better able to cue internally. Spouses are also a good source of feedback, you know. One of my caregivers told me, I annoy you because I love you. Listen to them. They have good feedback. If they're telling you you're not talking loud enough, don't just assume they need hearing aids, which they might, but speak louder than you think you need to. All right, personalized exercise program. Your exercise program needs to be personalized to you. So, you know, they say if you treated one person with Parkinson's, you treated one person with Parkinson's. Everybody's got their own individual struggles. You need to figure out what makes you tick, what challenges you the most, and drive that, all right? So a Parkinson-specific therapist can help you figure out what that is for you. You wanna, just what I already said, you wanna alternate between therapy and maintenance programs, but the exercises that you choose to do should be specific to your particular symptoms. If you're having trouble with rigidity, you want to do more stretching, rotational movements. If you're having trouble with bradykinesia or freezing, you want to work on weight shifting. These are things that help with that. Okay. Exercise goals. These are the kind of things that you should hope to achieve from your exercise program or your therapy program. You're going to learn to cue internally, like we talked about, with enough practice and feedback. The timing of movement improves with therapy. So let's say you're walking from here to there and you notice you're having trouble moving your feet. Your first thought wouldn't be, oh, I'm having trouble moving my feet, I better move my arms. The more you move your arms, the better your feet move. That's not intuitive to me. That's something I would have to learn. Okay, so that's a strategy to get the timing of your movement better and more efficient. Weight shifting. Okay, so if we can't weight shift, you can't move. All right, so I know Parkinson's is a movement disorder, right? But if you wanted to think of it as a weight shifting disorder, you could. It sneakily takes away your ability to effectively weight shift. So there's a lot of weight shifting exercises you can do for that to get you moving. Spine mobility. So this is where rigidity comes into play. It's hard to move with a stiff spine. All right, so there's a lot of unraveling techniques that you can get to move your trunk and your spine better. Okay. He's okay.
This is my question.
Sure.
At home, he does not use his walker. How can I get him to use his walker at home?
You won't.
Maybe that's not your expertise.
No. Okay. Well, you can get somebody else to tell him to use the walker at home.
There is no one.
If I told him to use his walker, would he listen to me? Would he be more open to using a cane?
I don't think that is enough stability.
Okay. Has he been to therapy recently?
The issue is continuing that after it's over.
Yeah.
We've done that a number of times.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's probably time for a therapy boost with a Parkinson's therapist, and then the Parkinson's therapist really should plug you into which ongoing resources you can use. Ongoing, and I'm going to talk to y'all about the different ones that are out there and that are more motivating for specific people. Like if you really love working in a class setting, you know, and you've just had therapy and your fall risk is reduced and you're ready for that, then, you know, find a class that you enjoy. If you like cycling, there are cycling groups in town that meet twice a week. The YMCA, Pedaling for Parkinson's, YMCA in Fort Worth. There's all kinds of things like that. I'm going to tell you about it at the end.
Thank you for your feedback.
Oh, you have to go? Okay. Did you give me your email address?
Yes.
Email me. Okay. Bye. All right. Transitional movements. Things like changing directions when walking and changing positions. These are things that we can choreograph for you in a new way so that you're performing the same function, but you're using a different part of the brain. Okay, y'all want to take a little break? Do you want to have like an exercise break where we do hand exercises? Okay, everybody do what I do. Palms up, reach your elbows out. Spread your fingers apart. Okay, now down and up. This is 1, 2, all the way back, y'all. Stop traffic. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we're doing 20, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You feel your forearms burning yet? Good. Okay, that's just one of 7 or 8 that you can do every day. But okay, if y'all start falling asleep on me, we'll just do a hand exercise. Okay. All right. So you want to focus on function. The exercises can help you overcome bradykinesia and rigidity and tremors. Treating symptoms with exercise. Physically challenging. All right. Remember, there's skills training and there's aerobics training. Those are the keys. If it isn't challenging you, it isn't changing your brain. I'm in the business of changing brains, right? That's your goal, really, not just physical changes. So you need to give your brain a reason to change. If you're just not doing anything and just telling your brain, I'm just going to walk from here to there the way I always do, your brain already knows how to do that, and it's getting tired of it. All right? So we got to get your brain's attention. You want to, okay, here's the key. You want to push, this is how you know if you're working hard enough. You're pushing beyond your self-selected pace and intensity. You gotta push harder than your self-selected effort. I was so irritated because, I sign up to get all those Parkinson's newsletters, and most of the stuff is really good, but I saw one about exercise recently, and it said, if you've got Parkinson's, choose something like water aerobics or yoga where you can pace yourself. And I was like, no, it's the opposite. Pacing yourself is one of the worst things you could do. Not really, it's better than nothing. But yoga is good for Parkinson's, but not for that reason, okay? You really want to effort through everything that you're doing in yoga. That makes sense? Okay. Okay, so how to monitor if you're working hard enough. There are ways, remember, coach, therapist, trainer, friend, spouse, but you want to monitor yourself in some way. Ask yourself while you're exercising, and on a scale of 0 to 10, how much effort am I using right now? With the higher numbers being what you want to answer that, all right? Afterwards, there are apps, like if you've got a smartphone, there are apps where you can rate, how much effort or, how hard you feel like you worked during that workout, things like that. You want to check yourself. Okay. Another good way, y'all, is when we get your heart rate up, you should only be able to speak in small sentences. That's a good rule of thumb. You can still talk, that's important, but just in short sentences. You're working hard enough. Okay, so, this is a good example. Let me show you. All right, so treadmills are brilliant for Parkinson's. This is because you have to keep up with it. You don't get to choose how fast you're walking. It decides for you, and you just have to chase after it. It's hard to cheat. It's hard to cheat with a treadmill if you have Parkinson's, although this dog found a way. Okay. All right, so progressive aerobic exercise continued. What it does, y'all, is it helps, this is why you want to do it. It helps your brain work better. What it does is it lights up the attentional and the working memory centers of your brain. All right, so An example of working memory is I start tying my shoe until I've completed tying my shoe. That's because I was able to attend to that task throughout the whole thing. An example of working memory gone wrong is when you go upstairs and open the door and forgot why you did that, okay? That's a brain glitch. So what aerobic exercise does is it lights up those parts of the brain so that you're primed and ready to learn a new skill. So it's a beautiful marriage between aerobics and skills training for Parkinson's disease. It also reduces inflammation. It slows down the aging of your brain. It gets rid of oxidative stress, and it protects your neurons. Skill acquisition. All right. So skill acquisition is where you're literally going for changing the circuitry of your brain. It's a forced use technique. They've been doing this in neuro rehab, this technique in rehab for a long time with stroke patients. But okay, are you still able to use that arm? Yes, you are. So we're going to find a way that forces you to use that arm. One way to do this is with trekking poles. You know walking sticks? Walking with walking sticks is great for Parkinson's because it's forcing you to move your arms. You have to, or you'll know right away if you're not moving your arm enough. Okay? So that's an example of forced use. Then, of course, practice. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm right hand dominant. I want to learn how to write with my left hand. Could I do that? Yeah. It would take a lot of attention and focus and effort and a lot of practice before I could do that effectively. But I had a Parkinson's patient say to me, his right side was affected, right? And he's like, I have got to learn how to write with my left hand. And I was like, well, if you're gonna go to the trouble to change your brain to learn how to write with your left hand, why don't you just go ahead and just instead teach your right hand how to write again, okay? Occupational therapists are good at helping with things like that. Okay, this is our daughter, Parker. This was crazy hair day at school. She doesn't always look that crazy. But this is literally the first time that she ever walked. We caught it on video. Okay, so if you watch her, you see that wide base of support. You see that weight shift that's happening? It's very exaggerated right here. Weight shifting is something that Parkinson's can take away from you. So, all right, other skill examples. Tossing items in the trash can. And an example of an exercise we would do for that is, y'all know what juggling scarves are? Or like dancing scarves? Parker has one on her face right now. Okay, all right, well, we throw juggling scarves. It actually takes a lot of effort to throw a juggling scarf. It doesn't look like it because it's this little flimsy, light, airy thing, but you throw it as hard as you can and it only goes like that far. So it's a great exercise to get your effort up for throwing things in the trash can. Car transfers. So I had a patient recently who had a flat tire and he was trying to get up and sit on the tailgate of his car. And for some reason he couldn't do it, he didn't know like he used to. He was getting stuck and he couldn't get up. So we had to choreograph a way for him to get on the tailgate of his car. And it involved adding a weight shift and adding an arm movement where he had to kind of roll onto one side and then roll onto the other hip. And he popped right up into the back of his car. Things like that happen in power therapy all the time. All right. It's all about strategy. Rolling over in bed, we would choreograph a ridiculous way for you to get out of bed. So I'd say on the count of 3, gonna bend your knee and bring your arm up like this. 1, 2, 3, go. And then on the count of 3 again. 1, 2, 3, go. And you're gonna swing your arm across your body and throw your leg over, and then people will kind of pop up out of bed. It's weird. We gotta trick your brain. Writing, I showed y'all a writing exercise. A good way to work on your speaking is with singing exercises, and that's also very fun and socially engaging, and it'll also help with swallowing and with your speaking voice. Any questions so far? Okay. What? Oh, no. Okay, fun, social, and accountable. So whatever exercise you choose, you guys, it has to be emotionally agreeable with you. I asked someone recently, would you be interested in trying a dance class? And he was like, I'm not doing any of that modern stuff. And I was like, you're right, don't do it. That would be counterproductive for your Parkinson's. It's gotta be something you enjoy and that you wanna do and that's fun for you. That's how you get more bang for your buck. Remember, it's got to be rewarding in some way emotionally. Dopamine is responsible for the reward centers of your brain, and we're really trying to tap into those. It's got to be motivating. It's motivating. It's a creative outlet. If you can think of anything that's a creative outlet for you, movement-wise, that's great and just more meaningful. If your brain isn't interested in it, it's like, forget about it. All right, you can use a class, a trainer, a coach, or a therapist to help you. And the other thing to think about that's really good for Parkinson's brains is fun or novel activities. Things like boxing, things that you don't do every day, dancing, throwing scarves. Those are really good for brains. Okay, enriched environment. This is when you want to, make sure that you're in a supportive environment. You should be having positive interactions with your environment and with others. It should be fun, it should be novel. Camaraderie is one of the biggest, because compliance matters. Your exercise program is something we want you to stick with in order to get the most out of it. The camaraderie sometimes can just be the thing that seals the deal. That's what people really get the most out of, like punching. Does anybody do punching out Parkinson's? Hurry. Okay. All right, mentally challenging. Dual tasking is difficult for people with Parkinson's. Exercise helps with this. Sometimes they'll say, count backwards while you exercise. That is something that would make me hate exercising, so I wouldn't do that. But I would say you got to do an exercise that focuses your attention on what you're doing. So you're choosing to step in this way. You're choosing to reach in this way. Just being present is a good way to engage your mind. That ability that you lose with Parkinson's to self-monitor your movements, that's a cognitive ability. So just by focusing on what you're doing, you can do it. Okay, the research says if you want to significantly reduce your symptoms, you want to work out 2.5 hours a week or 20 to 30 minutes a day. All right, just to give you an idea. All right. If you work with a personal trainer, you want to make sure, I gave y'all a cheat sheet. I didn't have very many of them, but it kind of guides you on where to get started. If you had a recent fall or it's a new diagnosis, you want to start with therapy. If not, you can get the one-on-one attention from a personal trainer. Group fitness classes. No recent falls or injuries. Likes working in a group. Okay, there's power moves classes. I'm going to be teaching one here in the community. Rock steady boxing. We have one of those in town. There's PD fitness classes, yoga, tai chi, all good. Dance, pedaling for Parkinson's at the YMCA, and pole walking are things that you can do with your friends or by yourself. Online programs for people who are self-motivated or just can't stand to be around other people, introverts. There are online programs, and if you just email me if you want me to help you find one, but you can go to YouTube and search Parkinson's exercises, and a lot will come up. Try them out. Also CDs and DVDs. Okay, in summary, the sooner the better, but it's not too late. You want to work harder than your self-selected effort. Progressive aerobic exercise and skills training is what your goal is. Lifelong commitment to therapy and maintenance exercise programs. Do y'all have any questions? Yes?
I just wanted to give you, I was falling down by box, I was falling down on a weekly basis, daily basis,
awesome.
And then, like I said, that's all, so it's really good, and they've been there for life.
Did y'all hear that? He's been coming to see me for 3 or 4 months, a couple times a week, and his falls have reduced by 90%. And he can go up the stairs now without falling, and it's really amazing. I learned so much from you guys too, just by working with you. So, thank you.
What's that power thing you were talking about?
Power, Parkinson's Wellness Recovery, PWR. It's a certification you can get for treating Parkinson's. And, you know, it's a very intense, large amplitude, full body movements where you work on weight shifting. You know, you do these exercises laying down, seated, standing, walking, and, you know, you basically strengthen all of the impairments that you have by doing these specific Parkinson's exercises. Gosh, it's hard to explain. I mean, I could give you a demonstration of a power move. This is one of them. Okay, that's an example of one. We do weight shifting and reaches. Just to give you an idea.
Well, thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are you wired for sound? Okay, there we go. What a great program. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And her information is on all of the tables.